Hi friends, today I have the perfect beginner tutorial for you. It is making an apron out of a shirt. And the reason why I came up with this is because right now I have an apron that has the little D-rings on it, and I constantly have problems with it grabbing at the back of my neck, or the D-rings come undone and the tie flies off and it flops into my it flops into my cooking. And so that's no good. I wanted something that I could use while I'm cleaning the house, as well as cooking or even gardening outside. Something that I can move around comfortably in and it not come undone, because the straps are actually sewn and it's all secured with stitching. You can customize the pocket and how you want it to look. You can make a long rectangular pocket, or like this pocket, I like to call it my kangaroo pocket, because I made it kind of deep and big so that I can easily take things while I'm cleaning around the house and sling them in there, run upstairs, take everything upstairs, and be done. The other fun thing is looking for the right shirt, and the yokes vary on shirts, so have a look and see what you would like. You're actually using the back side of the shirt to make the front of the apron, so pick something that you think would look good. I chose this one because it reminded me of fall and I wanted something around Thanksgiving. Okay, so for this project you'll need a shirt, and you want to make sure that it's long enough for you. And then you'll just need some scissors, a rotary cutter, and mat is also useful if you have those available. And then some standard sewing supplies such as pins or clips, some coordinating thread, a marking tool. I'm using a heat erasable marker. Just make sure to try it out on your fabric to make sure that it does disappear. You'll need some double bias tape for the sides. Now I used the 1/2 inch extra wide bias tape, but you could find something that's a little bit narrower if you want a daintier look. You'll need 2 to 3 packets. I use 2 packets, but if you want to use the bias tape around the pockets, then you'll need a little extra. A seam ripper is also very important for this project because we all make mistakes, but you'll also be removing some of the pockets. Some snips, also very useful. And if you have rulers or a yardstick, also good. And this is not a necessity, but if you have one laying around, it's perfect. It's a French ruler or a styling design ruler that is slightly curved, so that can help you get a nice curved look to your apron, but it's definitely not an essential. And lastly, you need your sewing machine. So actually the first part of the process is taking the shirt apart, and this is also great for beginners because you can kind of see how pieces are constructed and go together. You're going to take off the collar and you're going to splay open the side seam. So I'm going to get you in closer so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so as you can see, the bulk of the seam is on the collar side, and you're wanting to take that away from the shoulder and the back. And if you hear something snoring in the background, that's Chelsea, who likes to sleep right outside my door. Just set it to the side. So the next part is cutting open the front and the back. Okay, then the next part is going to be cutting away the sleeve from the body. You just want to make sure that you're not cutting through the back by mistake, but you've got this curved armhole seam and you're just going to cut. This part you're actually going to be using as a strap, this front side. You're going to have this strap, and that's what goes and makes the cross straps in the back. Okay, and you repeat it for the other armhole. So this is what it should look like right now. You can use the sleeves to construct some of the pockets and cut the bulk off here. And then next, I'm going to cut down the under seam of the sleeve. And when you get to the cuff, you can cut the cuff off. And so as you can see, for you beginners, this is what your sleeve patterns will look like. They usually have the curve at the top that needs to be fitted inside of the sleeve hole. But what I did for the apron that I put the little kangaroo pouch on, I actually used this lower part to make the pocket. I'm gonna cut off this part as well. Now, if you didn't want the kangaroo style pocket, but you wanted something that was more rectangular in nature, you could definitely cut a rectangle out or a square. You could do like a 7.5 by 7.5 square or an 8-inch square, however you'd want it. So you use this pocket for one side and then utilize your other sleeve for a second part. You could also save some of this fabric and make a loop to hang up your apron. Okay, so here are your 2 squares for the pocket, and this ruler is 7.5 by 7.5. I'm going to show you what you should have now and kind of orient you to the shirt. This is the original front of the shirt. You're going to put it over your shoulders like this point. You have what was the back of the shirt, and then you have the 2 front pieces. The buttons are going down this way, and you want to make sure that you've cut off all the bulk from the seams. And when I say bulk, I mean the flat fell seam. So the next step is going to be to find the pockets that are on the front and take your seam ripper and carefully take the pockets off. This is probably just the most time-consuming part of this whole project. Okay, so once you've taken off the pocket, and you'll have these little holes, but that's not a problem. Just grab some water, spritz the area, or press with the iron. And you can take your fingers and kind of gently help those fibers to go back into place. Okay, and then you have an extra little pocket that you can add to the front of your apron if you'd like. So next I'm gonna take the 2 squares and assemble the pockets. Pin it together, but it's a pretty small piece, so you just wanna make sure that you have the right sides facing each other. Okay, so you can use 2 of the same colored pins to remind you to leave that gap open, and then just pin around. Okay, so I'm gonna just use a 2.5 millimeter stitch length, stitch at 3/8 of an inch in from the edge, back stitch at the beginning and end. Trim your threads and trim your corners. That way you'll get a pointier pocket. And you're gonna press it, poke out all the corners. Ready to go onto your apron. Okay, so the next part is plotting some lines. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your shirt and you're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together. And so your buttons should be on the outside. And so what I have here is the collar was originally here, and then this is the armhole, and this is the underarm. This is the front, the original front of the shirt, and then this is going to be, or the back side which is now going to be the front side. So the points that we're going to be plotting, so you'll need to get your ruler, rotary cutter, scissors, and a marking tool. And the first point that I'm going to do is you're going to come in from your collar and mark 1 inch in. So this is on your shoulder seam. And put a mark, and then come over 3.5 inches from that mark. So 1, 2, 3.5, and put another mark. So this is actually where your strap's going to be coming. The next part is deciding what or how you want your collar to be. If you want it to be a little bit deeper, you could come down. You could make a little bit squared off. The next marking is going to be on the side of, this is your back, your original back. You're going to come and you're going to mark 1 inch below the armpit hole. And then you're going to take your marking tool and you're going to draw a curve, the exterior shoulder to underneath. Kind of eyeball it. And you can try it on and see if you like the curve or if you'd like for it to go in more. So this is the collar mark. This is a 1 inch in, and then 3.5 inches over, there's the other mark. And then I drew a mark underneath 1 inch and connected this dot to this dot. So the next part is drawing the lines for the back strap. You want to make sure that your placket where your buttons are lined up, and if you need to put a couple of pins in so it doesn't shift, where the placket is at the bottom, put a mark right there. So the line that I'm going to draw is going to go from the inside shoulder where the collar is, and I'm going to do a straight line down. So you can use a yardstick to mark that. So just connect the two dots. So then I'm going to use this line as a guideline to draw the other side of the strap. And what I want to do is plot a few points that are 3.5 inches over from this line. So you should already have your mark up here at 3.5 inches. Actually just cut. Okay, so all that's left to do is to cut. So the next thing you want to do is try it on. Okay, so once you've tried it on, the next step is figuring out where you want to place pockets. You want to make sure that you're catching the turning gap. So I will catch it on this side is where it is. And so I'm going to take it and top stitch all along, down the side, across, and up the other side, and leaving the pocket open, obviously, at the top. And you want to back stitch on either side to reinforce that. Okay, and again, don't forget to back stitch several times because this is where you're going to be putting your hand in, and you want to make sure it's nice and strong. Okay, so next grab your bias tape. I'm going to start on the back side. I'm going to attach it and start pinning. So you open up your bias tape and line the edges up, and then you're going to be stitching in that fold line. So leave some extra loose because this is where you're going to join it to the other end of the bias tape. So I'm going to start working on that. Go all the way down and all the way around the collar line as well on both sides of the strap. And also you can decide if you want to put some on the bottom, or if not, it's already turned under from your shirt line. I'm going to put it on a 2.5 millimeter stitch length just to make sure it's on well, and then when I turn it around and top stitch it, I'll probably put it on a longer stitch so it'll look nicer. I'm When you get to the underarm, the corner, all you're gonna do is you're just gonna pivot and realign your bias tape. Make sure that you're on track. This is what it's gonna look like. So you just fold it so you're getting kind of a mitered 45-degree angle to the corner. I'm getting to the end of that bias tape, so I'm going to show you how to attach it. But what you're going to do is open it up and match the raw edges together, and then you're going to just stitch down at about 1/4 inch. Finger press it, and then you just keep going around. And I try to plan the bias tape to where I have to piece it together on the back side, like on the strap, so that you're not doing it on the front collar piece where it's most visible. You could also round the corners so that you don't have to miter corner part. Okay, so to join, you'll overlap the bias tape about 1/2 inch to 1/4. You're gonna put a mark on the bottom side at 1/4 inch so you can see where to stitch. You wanna stop about 1.5 to 2 inches, let's say, back stitch, just to secure your stitch. Make sure you have the right sides together and unfold your bias tape and match it up, and then you're gonna stitch it at 1/4 inch where you put the mark, and get everything out of the way and just back stitch. It'll be just right. So then just pick up where you left off, back stitch to secure. This is where you stitched, so you're going to be folding it over. You're going to be encasing, cover the stitch line, and that's what your finished product's going to look like. I'm going to lay the unfinished seam that way and tuck it into the bias tape, and make sure that the bias tape is covering your previous stitching line. And you're going to top stitch about 1/8 inch in. And so the goal is to cover the understitching, and you're going to be going to the right of that so that when you flip it over, your top stitching is going to look nice on the front side. And I am going to change my stitch length to 3 just because I think it's going to look prettier with that longer stitch line. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this part and then I'll finish clipping. But you want to make sure that the edge of your foot is on the edge of the bias binding that you've turned under. And I'm going to start stitching with a 3mm stitch length. Okay, so I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. This is the right side, and you're going to do that all the way around. Okay, here's a tip for you beginners. What you could do is when you first attach the binding, attach it on the back side of the shirt. That way, when you go to fold the bias binding, you'll be top stitching on the front so that you can kind of see and getting a straight line. Now, the last part is to attach the straps. The key is to cross the straps in the back and have them lay down the way you would like to. Then decide if you want to attach the strap on the outside or the inside, and then pin it, and then you can go down and stitch. You can use the same stitch line as the bias tape or come in a little further. Just make sure that you have the straps not twisted at the back and that they're about the same location on both sides. Okay, so I embellished it with a few bells and a ribbon to make it extra Christmassy. So I hope you found this tutorial fun and of value. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, just drop them in the box below. And until next time, happy sewing. Bye for now. This is Nikita. Hi, sweet girl. And yes, I made her one for her. Right? So we match. Okay.